YouTube, what up? Let's talk about the HASLAB Giant Man project, the GoFundMe that got the community in splits. Seems like a lot of people were fighting over this campaign, and I don't think it was that serious, personally. I stayed far from it because I'm not really interested in this figure, so there was nothing really to invest. But we are a week away from its deadline, and so I figured I should give my opinion on it as best as I could, because I'm not going to get into the technicalities of it or pricing from other campaigns like the Sentinel and Galactus. But I think this, as is probably worth around 200. I don't want to say 200. I say 150 would be like a perfect pricing for it. I'm just going to cut right into it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It is a nice looking figure, and again, for those who do want this, you buy what you think is worth your money. I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm not telling you to don't buy it. I'm just pretty much saying, if I were interested in a Giant Man like this, for me, $200 would be worth it. The old Giant Man Build-A-Figure is going for around $100, maybe a little more, maybe less now that this one's coming out. But even the old 18-inch Spider-Man, that's going for like $200, $150, and that's a cool figure. It has pretty much all the same articulation this one has. What I would have done is probably, if this helps cut the cost, I would remove the finger articulation entirely and just have 2, maybe 3 sets of hands, because you don't need much. Open hands, grip hands. Actually, you need 3 sets of hands: grip hands, open hands, fist. That would have been great. I don't know if that would have cost more due to the plastic and how heavy it would be, but that's what I would have done if that helps cut cost. Everything else, I don't know. The face plates, for me, that's not really necessary. Nobody cares about the scroll. It's a cool idea for them to implement the face plates without having to create new heads. But again, that's a cost cutter. They eliminated the plastic and having extra heads when they could just slip in face plates. It's very smart for a company. I respect that. I feel like they could have added a small wasp. At the very least, a wasp. You got Giant Man, just add a 6-inch figure wasp, and I think this would have went perfect. People would have probably complained less. But because there are no other figures in any of the tiers, people feel like it's kind of a ripoff. And for me, again, even without the tiers, even without the face plates, I still feel like if I wanted a Giant Man, just due to the sheer size of this thing, I'd probably buy it. So I don't know if it's going to get funded. I guess we'll all just wait and see. As far as Hasbro having to do a campaign like this, like a Kickstarter, GoFundMe, I don't think it's necessary either. Another argument is this could have sold on shelves, and I agree. I think people would have bought it on shelves. There was a 24-inch Deadpool that was around $200 that sold pretty well. But I get the risk the company doesn't want to take, and they want to make as much, so they want to make sure that they can profit as much as possible rather than going to a middleman like retail store and everything. And again, from a company perspective, I understand that. I see a lot of the Hasbro team catching flack for marketing this figure, but it's their job. That's what they got to do. It's not technically them alone who's pricing this figure at what it is. It was part of the campaign. It was agreed upon from the higher ups, and that's what it is. So to judge them and get mad at them, I don't see the point in that, honestly, and us bickering to each other, whether if you want it or you don't want it, or you're a shill or you're not a shill. Just buy what you like, man. You know what I'm saying? Don't let anybody influence you away from something that you really want. I mean, of course, make your informed decisions. People will probably get mad at me for saying this, but it's the truth, right? Get it if you want. But the problem with saying something like that, right, something so vague, is that if this does well, then it shows the company that people are interested, and they will continue to do campaigns like this and offer us very little to nothing for our money. And we want better, right, as consumers, and so we have to speak with our dollar. We have to not fund something like this in order to show companies that we need more. If you want our money, we need more. You should expect a little bit of backlash if you are skimming on the project when you know you could be offering more. Because look, we just got a reveal on the Wasp figure, right? So they're saying, hey, don't worry, guys. If you want Giant Man, back him now, because you'll have the opportunity to get Wasp later on, which would go great with this figure. But it's like, why didn't you include it in the tier system? That would have sold it, or at least helped sell it a little more, in my opinion anyway. And again, I'm not a Wasp fan or a Giant Man fan, but if you get like Yellow Jacket in there, 6-inch Giant Man in there. This thing would have sold immediately. But they know, right? Hasbro knows that they can make these figures later on, and they're gonna sell if this thing sells. And that's smart for them too. It's smart for them to do that. But in a way, it's like, damn, you could have at least gave us Wasp, kept Ant-Man and maybe Yellow Jacket in a separate 2-pack or something, and that would have been cool. This is a HASLAB project. This is supposed to be something special. Something we just can't buy in store shelves. Right? Like, make us feel special. Don't just like, again, skim out on the project by giving us something really cool but somewhat mediocre to make us think, maybe. Like, you want us to go 100%. And again, on the figure itself alone, personally, if I wanted a Giant Man, I would buy it. But I'm just saying, as far as everyone else goes, for real, like Avengers fans and Giant Man fans and Wasp fans, you needed a Wasp figure at the very least in this campaign. There had to be a Wasp figure, I think, in order for this to go super smooth. Like, you know what I think was really cool but kind of embarrassing at the same time? When they announced, you're gonna get white tentacles and black tentacles to swap them in and out, and it was like, okay, that was like the bare minimum. What did that cost? Right? Like, I like the idea of having the ability to switch that in and out, but it's like, come on, bro, like, this is insulting to a degree if you really think about it. As far as the campaign goes, the figure itself, again, I always say the figure looks good, and if I wanted a Giant Man, I would get it. But as far as the presentation on the campaign, I don't know. It could have been done a little better, honestly. I'm not judging, so don't take this harshly. Again, don't let me influence your decision. I just wanted to give you guys my opinion on it, seeing that the campaign has maybe a couple days left. So if it funds, good luck to everybody who put their money in on it. If it doesn't, you win, I guess, right? The other guys win. Whoever didn't want it to fund wins. And on to the next one. Hopefully they learn off this. If it doesn't fund, they can create something super special and give us more bang for our buck, because I do agree with both sides on this debate. Like, there should be more for our money, and it is worth what it is now, I guess. So I don't know, it may sound hypocritical, I guess, to some, but you make the decision.